for so many people that go through difficult things, it's like we don't have a lot of us, we haven't discovered the ways in which we can transmute it and like alchemize the difficult things in our life into movement. Like animals shake it off. They have their different ways of shaking off trauma in their life. But as we get older as humans, like we kind of just store it and stuff it down. And I think that we're all such creative beings when we're kids, and we're also expressive. And then slowly over time through the schooling system and through all these different things that kind of put us into a form of a box, like our smile just turns into a frown over time. And it's like everyone's so serious and have this persona or identity that they're like so glued to. So it's a beautiful invitation. Do you have any, when you've done like workshops or you support people and tapping into this, do you have ways for people at home that are like listening right now, how they can begin to transmute and alchemize their suffering? I know you just gave some, but is there anything else that comes to mind?
Yeah, I mean, I usually tell this story in my workshops to set the tone. When I was in Hawaii, after I broke up with my partner, I moved into a house full of musicians, you know, Kevin. So I lived with Kevin. Brian, who you met, and this girl, Charlie, they were all like singers and artists, guitar, the whole works. And then there's me, little poet over here. But I was watching them sing. It was so fun just being in a house of creatives like that. And Brian, like you've heard him, he will rattle the house.
Yeah,
Like,
bring it down.
He won't hold anything back. And Charlie has the most beautiful, lovely voice, but she was singing like it was into a glass bottle almost. So she kind of got frustrated and she turned to him. She's like, how do you do that? Like, how are you accessing that much, you know, power in your voice? And he was like, make an ugly face. And she kind of like went like this cute little ugly face. And he said, I said, make a real ugly face. And she did. And he's like, how'd that feel? She's like, oh, it felt terrible. And he's like, well, that's where you need to sing from. So that's where you have to write from. That's where you have to create from, is like, all of you is welcome. This isn't for anyone. Like, make the ugly face, because that's when people actually feel something.
Yeah, I love it. I think the most powerful pieces of art that I've been impacted from is something that is deeply authentic for the person who's sharing it, right? And I'm sure for you, like your journey of sharing and creating and writing poetry, it's like the most authentic stuff is probably the most vulnerable stuff to share, but also the most impactful.
Absolutely, because we have this like editor in our mind. I feel it when I write. It's like before the poem can even come out, I'm already editing it. You know, it's like this judgmental, like the blank page is so perfect. Why would I ruin it by putting something on it? And that's what I mean by the ugly face, is like, let that voice go. It doesn't matter. It's so much better to just do it messy and fully express and clean it up later.
Yeah.
So I think like if you're writing, just like really let that full expression come out. Like, don't stop moving your pen.
Yeah. What's been the journey for you, like letting go of that perfectionism, right? Like I'm sure you've made stuff that is really good. And so either if it's comparison to your own work that you deem as like the best stuff, or other people's work, how have you been able to just be in your own creative process without judging it?
Because at least with poetry, it's like it won't touch people if I do that, if it's too perfect. If I'm talking about the rose gold liquid sunset, you're not going to feel as much as if I'm like actually opening up my rib cage and letting you walk in for a bit. So I think that's kind of part of it, is like a good poem is anything written honestly. And I feel that way about all art. It's kind of where imagination meets the truth.